This video is part 2 of my video surface paneling with two-dimensional array in Power 3D, and we have a deeper look in the options of our surface controller. So what we need at the beginning, we need a surface and as our panel surface, and we need our panel objects, and we just build this panel surface together, something like this. Of course, you can also use any other kind of surface. What I do is I just go into a line, I just choose drag type smooth, and I just draw my first line, something like this, and then I just draw my second line on top and close it with my right mouse click, and then my third line, a little bit something like this. And next step, I just go into my front view, probably just say isolate selection, so I can see a little bit better. And I just choose my second line and move it up a little bit, and my third line and move it on top of all of them. And if I then choose my first line and go into attach and attach these two, then they're all attached in one shape. The next thing I have to do is I can choose my cross-section modifier, and I choose here the option smooth, and I put a surface modifier on top. Surface modifier, then we're already quite close and having a nice formed surface for our surface paneling. The only thing which is really important, always like this, you need an edit poly on top, and then you can already see, if you go in your surface modifier and say show end result toggle on, that the steps here increases the amount of polygons when I have a polygon modifier on top. The nice thing about this kind of surfaces is that you can still control them afterwards quite well. You can just go into line level again and just choose the vertex points, and you can start moving this, and you can just see that you have a really pretty good control over this whole surface, and this is important and in a way really handy. Okay, the next thing we have to create is our panel objects. Also this I want to make a little bit more complex, and of course you can also follow the whole video tutorial with more simple shapes. But the advantage of this panel object is that I can still change things in Power 3D. For example, I can just change these insert, and we just have a look how we built this. Okay, the first thing I did, I just start with a rectangle and 40 by 40 centimeters. I'm in my units centimeters, and then I just say right mouse click convert to editable mesh. On top I will just add one edit poly modifier, and here it's really important, this edit poly modifier should allow me to control my insert in Power 3D, and everything in 3D Studio which you want to animate afterwards or control with Power 3D with my edit poly modifier, you have to use in animate mode. Without this you would not be able to control this in Power 3D, so I just switch on animate. I go into my sub-object level polygon, I choose this polygon, and then I just scroll down and select insert of my edit poly settings, and here I just choose by polygon and can just then insert my my polygon. The amount doesn't matter because we will change this in Power 3D anyhow. And if you look at this right now, you can see this menu settings, and I can go into this and can always change this. Important, you have to close it with this OK button. And just because I changed the insert, I just say that I will name this so I can recognize a little bit better. So right mouse click on edit poly, and you just name it now edit poly insert. Everything here is related to the selection. So if you just by mistake deselect it, then the whole insert will be gone. You really have to select the polygon in the middle. Okay, so what I do on top, I just add one delete mesh modifier. And so I already have these kind of shape, and the next thing I will do, I will add a shell modifier to give the whole thing a little bit of a thickness. And next, what I want to do, I want to control my object with the FFD modifier. And what you can see is this FFD modifier looks a little bit weird. It's small and tiny. So what you have to do, you have to put an edit poly underneath. If you put the edit poly underneath, then my FFD modifier just recognize the border of the polygons, and then it works properly. So we can just rename this and just say this is my again panel objects. Rectangle, and that's it. And to see it a little bit better, I just give this a decent color by object, and this is my starting point, which I already prepared here on the left side. So for the start, I will work with these two kind of objects. I go into isolate selection, and what we have to do, we already know this, we just select our power object and say right mouse click and go into create parametric array. And I always just use this right now. I say I start with a count of 10 by 6, and I go into create. Yes, I really want to control it by my FFD modifier, and I don't need this editable mesh information underneath right now for this example, so I say no. Okay, this probably will change in other Power 3D versions. It just opens with all my options, and that's a lot. You can see there are many options. If you just go on, close it and open it again, then you can see that it's the same structure like I have here in my object. We have our FFD modifier, we have this edit poly, we have the shell modifier, and we have edit poly insert. The editable mesh I didn't choose. I could also have attached the editable mesh. Okay, my little navigation tool. And next thing, I just choose my surface controller, double click with my transform options. And like I already said, it's really important to do this because otherwise you can get in trouble if you use other controllers, for example, to control insets with for example with a magnet controller and things like this. So I go into pick objects. What you can do is you can also now just press the H button, and then you see that my menu opens, and enter panel surface, and you can just see you can also do it via your H button. Okay, my controller selected. I just click update selected controller, and here we go. And there's one thing you can change in transformation. There's something like this align, so it's always like this. If I click on Z, then the Z axis aligns to my normals, or I can just also go into a Y, and you can just see that this whole thing just has a different kind of orientation, but the normal orientation is definitely this kind of thing, and you can only do this in transform actually. Okay, the next thing we have to do, we already know this, we have to open our FFD box, because this is responsible for transforming our panel objects. And with right mouse click on my master, I can check all my control points, 8 control points, and then drag and drop this into my setting field, click, and I enter now surface controller, the first 3 or 4 letters, and then I choose instance, because I want to control them all together with one controller and not have too many points which are difficult to handle. We also talked about this already. And next thing, I pick my object, my panel surface, and we already know this. If I update now, I can't see anything because all 8 points have the same contour points have the same parameters in terms of u, v, and w, the same values. So what I have to do is under u, v, w offsets, I need a controller, I need this sub-object controller, so that on sub-object level my vertex points, every vertex point or every contour point has different kind of values. And if I now go into update, the whole thing already looks really well. For the next minutes, I just choose my panel surface, and right mouse click, I just say hide selection, so we can see the whole thing a little bit better. And we have a deeper look again into my sub-object controller. I just can click on my sub-object controller, can go up again, and can also just click here in my UVW offsets, and that's the same way. And we already learned this in the first video tutorial. We can change the thickness of my surface cladding. I just say 8 centimeters here. I go into update, and now my panel objects have a thickness of 8 centimeters. U and V are relative to my patch. So if I go a little bit smaller here, like 8 centimeters in U direction, you can just see that it moves like this. And what you can actually do, you can also use other controllers, for example, to control these thickness. I will just show you one quick example. Ali Tarabi already showed it and has video randomizing thickness and surface paneling. If I just choose my random controller here, then I will select my random controller here in my node menu, and I will choose a range between minimum of thickness 1 centimeters and maximum of thickness 10 centimeters. And if I update this, it still doesn't look convincing, because you can see that each object, I can just move it out, has a different kind of thickness already in one object. And this just is the reason, because it just creates a fresh random value for each contour point. To avoid this, you have to switch on this use pattern. If I do this and I update this again, then you can see that it already went back, and we just can change here the amount of randoms we want to have. And once you use this use pattern, you have to switch on randomize, and so it always creates new randomized thicknesses when you use these randomized pattern, and it just doesn't change when you just automatically auto update, which is quite handy. And you can change between the first and the second dimension and do nice things. And that's only one example which you can do. And another thing what you can do is you can just drag and drop your menus, a little bit like in my material editor. I just drag and drop and just says, do you really want to remove the controller? I just say yes, and if I now go again into auto update, I'm back at my 8 centimeters thickness. Okay, we do something similar with my U and V direction. I just choose a pattern controller, and here it's the same. I can just drag and drop this onto my V direction. I say I want to have it as an instance, and if I now go into my pattern controller, I can say the first should have the value 1, and the second has the value 0.8, not 0.8, and then I go into my second line and I say 0.8 and 1. And we just see what happens if I update this. Then you can see that it showed a produced pattern in U and V direction, and the pattern is the first object has the full width and length, and the second one is 0.8, and then it just jumps in one line. And so you can just see there are many options, and really nice. You can do a lot of things. And I just go again and delete these. and we reset it to where we actually come from. Okay, if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that my two controllers are still here, but they are disconnected. I can delete them with right mouse click, but I can also use them for other things. I can, for example, just use them for my edit poly insert. Remember, we just created this insert in my array, and this is done with in the animate mode. If I go inside, you can see that this is animate. I can change it here, and I can also change it in Para 3D. So just let's move these two kind of controllers down, and I just have to look for my insert right now. Here we go, and you can't see any insert right now because the problem is I still have these guys selected. So what I can do, right mouse click on all, and I just say uncheck all. And if I now go down again and just choose my insert amount, then you can see the insert amount is 2.8 centimeters. If I just change it to 2, then its opening is even bigger, and I just see what kind of range I want to have. Between 2 and 8, I think that's fine. And this also is quite already quite good. When I look at my random controller, I just say it's between 1 and 8 right now, and I can just connect this to my insert, and I click on update, and we just see what's happening. We just have a window between openings of 1 and 8 centimeters, and I can randomize the pattern again, and so on and so on. I can also delete it, I can disconnect it, and I can just now connect my pattern controller, and we just see what this does right now. The values don't make much sense, so I just change it to 1 and 10 and 10 and 1, otherwise you wouldn't see anything because the thickness 0.8 is not much different to 1. If I go into update, it comes out, you see something like this, and so you have many options. And there's one thing in terms of deleting. You can see that you have this delete function, which is also really really handy. It also shows you what you delete. If I just say remove output, then you have to select the node actually. Then you can also do it like this. Okay, right mouse click, and I can delete my random. I don't want to do this, I just want to connect it right now again. And I click my update button, and really important, you have to choose your controller, otherwise it doesn't work. I already did it in my first video. I can just attach this now to any other surface, which is possible for a 2D array, and it could be, for example, also these kind of torus node. What I can do, I can just select my transform surface modifier, and I hold my string control key and click on my master control point. So both surface controllers are selected. And then I just can click surface controller and select my torus node. And if I click onto auto update, we can see that these things are already there. It doesn't look good, and we just see why it doesn't look good. If I just see the amount of objects I have 10 in my U direction and 6 in my Y direction. This is quite obvious that I have to increase the numbers. I first say I want to have 20 objects in my U direction, and then it already looks a little bit better, and but this is not enough. I just say there are 30 objects in my U direction, and then probably 15 objects in my Y direction. I just have to calculate a little bit because it's already quite a lot. So here we go, and you can see that this worked pretty well. In my random controller, I just change my settings a little bit, I just say this is 0.81 in terms of minimum, and the maximum is probably 12. I go into randomized pattern, so to have a little bit more extreme. And it is like this, that I can just choose the surface underneath again. I can just distort it and everything is following. If I choose my surface, by the way, that's also quite handy. You can just deselect my torus node. I just right click on my surface here in Para 3D, and then I have my surface selected. I just deform this a little bit, somehow like this. And if I then again select my surface in both surface controllers, actually just selected it now, and I update my array, then you can just see that my whole panel objects are following, and they sit again on my surface, my panel surface. There's some nice things in my utilities of Para 3D, and if I just choose my node and I go into select array node, you can see here these utilities. It could be also that you already have something like a menu bar like this. Anyhow, I just go into utilities, and we just want to look at a few things. One thing is really nice and handy. There is this paint function, and there's one thing I can show me in a visual way. That's what we animated in Edit Poly. That's this insert amount. And what we can do actually, I just move my Para 3D, we can find the minimum and the maximum value of my insert. First I have to update it, so it's looking for the whole thing. Everything is red, and if I say find minimum and maximum, then it sees that the maximum is 11.9, and if I update this, you can see that in a visual way it just shows me the really small insert value and the biggest insert value in color. You can change the color in your material editor and do really nice things like this, and obviously you can also remove it again and go back. That's a really practical thing if you want to analyze things, if you want to be aware of where is the smallest insert or the biggest insert or whatever kind of thing you want to look at. You can use this paint function. Another thing which is really handy is this snapshot function. I just open my snapshot. You can choose between editable poly and editable mesh. I just go on editable poly. I click on snapshot. It just takes some seconds, and here you can already see your snapshot. It's an editable poly. It's not connected to Para 3D anymore. You can export it wherever you want to export it to. You can't control it with Para 3D obviously anymore. Okay, if I select my node again and I go on snapshot, you can change to editable mesh. If you go perform Boolean operation, this can cause a lot of trouble if your whole array object, your old paneling is a little bit too heavy. So what it actually does, it just calculates all these things together in a Boolean way, so you have less edges and less polygons, but you really have to save your scene. It can take minutes and your whole thing can collapse, so I would probably not do it. If I just use it in a normal way, then you have the same thing as an editable mesh, and it looks pretty much the same. Okay, I already unhided my first surface again. It's this one where we started to work with, and what I do right now, I just go back and choose my first surface controller and my second surface controller, and I just select my surface button and choose this kind of surface. I go into auto update, and so it's just on my previous surface again, and we just see that's quite a lot. We have many objects, even more objects than actually amount of polygons I have. So what I can do is right now if I click on select array node, you see I have 30 items in my first direction and 15 items in my second dimension. There's one button which is really handy. And for this I have to select the surface controller under master and not both of them. Here's this option, set array count to number of polygons, and we just let this calculate. And here you can see now we have 12 by 12 objects, because this is the amount of polygon this surface has. If I just copy this surface and move it to the right and go into my surface modifier, and I reduce the steps like this, and then again select my both arrays and select this kind of surface. Then I go into auto update, and at the beginning it looks quite similar, but if I now choose again only my surface controller under master, under my FFD box, I can then again choose set array count to number of polygons, and now it fits well to my new surface, which has less polygons than all my other objects beforehand. Okay, before we continue with this video, I clear up a little bit the complexity of my surface paneling, and I just take this random controller on my inserted mount, right mouse click and delete this. And if I choose random, I just change the value a little bit to refresh it, and then we can see that it's not controlled by my random controller anymore, which is really handy, so we can see more what I'm actually doing and have less complexity. Okay, one thing, and we look at this properly in another video, I already want to show you when I use, for example, this running bonds. Then you can just see that they just have this structure, this a little bit like a brick structure, and you can also see that these are the edges in U direction, and they just leave the surface in a way. And I can avoid this. I can just go into my surface controller, and if I just say in U direction I use trim, we just see what it does. I zoom out a little bit to look at this a little bit better properly. You can just see that it just trims my objects in my U direction. Okay, all the other things like these things like the smoothing function, this spacing option, and also my surface optimization, we have a look into in another video, the third video, which is a little bit more like advanced features, really interesting, also quite important, but I think it's already then a little bit too much. So I go back again, I choose my grid and go into update controller, and it looks really simple. And the last two things I want to show you in this video, I think they're pretty quite amazing, because you can change the complexity of your surface cleaning in terms of changing just single items. And what I do right now is I just have my basic objects. That's this one. This was my panel objects. I just copy this as a copy, and I just call this variation, whatever. And it's important what I want to do actually before I start. I have this option like select all nodes in 2 dimension, and okay, first I have to select this. Obviously I just click on one more of my elements and I just select my para node. And so what I can do is I can just select one of my items, and I just go into select all same nodes in my second dimension. I can do the same with selecting in my first dimension. Anyhow, I just select this the row in my second dimension, and what I want to do is I just want to exchange these with a different kind of design, and it's still connected to my para node actually. Okay, what you have to keep an eye on, I want to change this to this one. It still needs the same hierarchy in my modifier stack. So what I want to do is I just choose my edit poly, which was animated, and my polygon is still selected, and I want to animate something else. I just want to animate it in terms of extruding the surface. And what I do is, you can just see that I extrude my surface here right now. I click OK, and right mouse click, I just call this edit poly extrude. And my delete mesh, I just switch off. Otherwise, obviously, you can also go for this kind of design, but I just want to have it like this. Okay, I just scroll out a little bit. I choose my first choose this kind of item, and I can swap between select column and my second dimension. You can see it just changed all my array objects, panel objects in my second direction. I can also do this in my first dimension. Third dimension doesn't exist. I just stay with my second dimension. And what I can do now is I can just use another array object for this kind of node. There's a warning that the whole thing can crash. Okay, I'm aware of this, and now I choose this kind of object. I really want to have the transformations of my FFD modifier in this. I don't need it with my editable mesh because I didn't have it beforehand, and it's calculating, and here we go. And I think that's pretty amazing. It's a really easy way of doing these kind of things. And also interesting, if I just choose my surface again, and for example, I go into my line and change a little bit my my splines. Oops, this is something I didn't want to do. I just do it on my vertex level. I just change this a little bit, like this, so my whole thing is distorted. And if I now go again, select both transform and FFD surface modifier, and I select my surface again, and I go into update, then we just see that the whole thing is following, and these things are just integrated in my Power 3D node. Another thing you can do is even more amazing in a way. You can just select one row, and also again I choose the one in my second dimension. Probably I choose these two, and now I have them selected, and I can just produce Power 3D node for these elements. I go into a parametric array, create parametric array, and we can't choose a count because we already have this account in our selection. And then I go into create, and here again the menu is really long. We just close it like this, and so what we can do is we can just change parameters here. For example, I go into my edit poly insert, and here we had this insert amount animated. If I just choose the value, you can see what's happening. They're already changing. So if I use whatever kind of controller, for example, again, a pattern controller. Let's do it with a pattern controller, and I want to have a pattern between 1 and 20. I go into auto update, and then we just see it just goes between closed and open. 20 was possibly a little bit too much. Let's say it's 15. Here we go, and then you just did it for these kind of objects, and of course the whole thing, if I change it again, then it's following. Last thing, just to clear this up a little bit, you have the options to hide unselected channels, which is really handy. It looks already much better. Also here we can do this, and you can also say select your node and click on collapse items. If you didn't select anything and click on collapse items, then it does it with all your para nodes, and so you can organize your scene really well. And if you see this black button, then you already know there is something attached. There must be a controller. Okay, thanks for watching.